Have you ever wondered about the unsung heroes? You know, those crucial figures who shaped history but often get overlooked.
Absolutely. Not the big names, the leaders or famous speakers, but the quiet, steady ones working behind the scenes.
It's fascinating, isn't it? How often things hinge on people just doing their job faithfully.
Yeah, people not really seeking the spotlight at all.
Exactly. And today we're doing a deep dive into one such person from the early Christian church, Tychicus. Our source material for this is a brand new book published in 2025, Tychicus, The Faithful Messenger by Paul Estabrooks.
Right. And our mission here really is to figure out why Tychicus, who is often described as, relatively lesser known.
Just a few mentions in Paul's letters.
Just a few mentions, exactly.
Yeah.
But why he was so undeniably significant.
We're going to explore his role as a trusted companion, a messenger, a co-worker with the Apostle Paul.
And hopefully uncover some, surprising insights into just how crucial that quiet faithfulness can be, especially for the unity and spread in the early church.
Okay, let's dive in. Let's unpack Tychicus' story right from the beginning. The source introduces him as young and unremarkable, arriving in Ephesus as a trader's assistant. Can you paint a picture of Ephesus then?
Yeah, the book calls Ephesus a city of clash and calling. You have to imagine this incredibly vibrant, noisy place, real crossroads of empires, trade, different religions, banners for Rome, for Caesar, for Artemis, the goddess there. It was just intense, constant noise, tension.
Wow, so full of energy.
Definitely. And Tychicus, the book says, was kind of one more soul adrift in all that chaos.
So how does this seemingly unremarkable young guy, raised with traditional synagogue teachings, the source notes he was initially pretty skeptical.
Right.
How does he end up encountering Paul in this bustling city?
Well, he gets drawn to Paul's preaching. Paul was teaching publicly in a place called the Hall of Tyrannus.
Okay.
And the book gives this vivid image of Paul, a tent maker from Tarsus, a former Pharisee, someone who had actually persecuted Christians before his conversion.
Right, a complete turnaround.
A complete turnaround. And his voice is described as graveled, urgent, filled with fire. Apparently, Tychicus didn't even intend to stop, but Paul's words just cut through.
And what was it? What was the message that grabbed him?
It was this revolutionary idea. Paul was preaching that in him we have redemption through his blood. A mystery now revealed that the Gentiles are fellow heirs. This whole concept of forgiveness, new life through Christ's sacrifice, and this was radical, the inclusion of non-Jews.
Wow.
For Tychicus, it was like water to cracked earth. That's the phrase the book uses. He found this unexpected freedom.
And drawn to the community too, right? Jews, Greeks, slaves, citizens.
Exactly. All sitting together, breaking bread. It was completely countercultural.
Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting, because this is where we also meet Damaris. Why is she introduced so early? What's pivotal about her?
Damaris.
Yeah.
Yes. She's introduced as ink-stained, quietly intense, always listening to Paul, absorbing everything while helping her father, who was a scribe.
Ink-stained, I like that.
Yeah. And there were whispers, the book mentions, that she'd maybe studied philosophy in Athens.
Really?
And might have even heard Paul speak there on the Areopagus about the unknown God.
So she had this intellectual depth.
Definitely. Sets her apart. And her quiet wisdom clearly made a big impression on Tychicus.
And there's this subtle connection forming. I love that quote where Damaris tells Tychicus, "You handle the letters with care." That is rare. And then she adds, "The word is like seed. It grows even in cracked parchment, but still, it is good when someone tends the soil."
It's beautiful, isn't it? And when Tychicus describes himself humbly, like, "I'm no teacher, just a helper," her response is, "They carry more than scrolls." It shows that his careful behind-the-scenes work was already being recognized as valuable.
It wasn't just about the physical documents.
No, it was about the message inside them and the dedication needed to get them where they needed to go. It really underscores this theme of consistent, humble service being so impactful.
That's powerful. And later, Tychicus himself is sort of wrestling with this idea of unity. Can these broken people really come together in this new church?
Yeah, he asks Damaris about it.
And her wisdom again.
Yeah.
If Christ is the head, then yes. But it will take time and many healings.
And then Tychicus uses that fascinating word for himself. A ligament.
A ligament. What's the significance there? Especially compared to someone like Paul.
Well, Paul's the visionary, the apostle, maybe the head in that analogy. Tychicus sees himself as connective tissue. Ligaments connect bones, provide stability, let the whole body function. Not flashy, but absolutely essential. He understood early on his strength was in enabling connection, keeping things together.
That behind-the-scenes role. But it became dangerous in Ephesus, didn't it?
Increasingly so. The book describes this growing opposition, especially from silversmiths, like a guy named Demetrius.
Right, they were losing business because people stopped buying idols of Artemis.
Exactly. And the priests of Artemis were furious too. It culminates in that massive riot.
The whole city chanting, "Great is Artemis of the Ephesians."
Yeah. Paul eventually has to leave under threat. But the church, as the source says, remained wounded, watchful, and alive, which is pretty remarkable.
Shows their resilience.
Absolutely. And it's around this time Tychicus encounters other key figures in Paul's circle, like Timothy.
Timothy. Paul sends him off to Macedonia, right? Philippi, Thessalonica.
Yes. And Timothy sounds burdened. He feels the weight of the Ephesian church, especially with false teachings creeping in. The book quotes him feeling like he's trying to steer a ship against the current.
And even then, Tychicus is there offering encouragement, already showing that supportive nature.
And we get that little mention of Timothy's connection with Selene from Lystra or Derbe, who apparently sings psalms like the wind through cedars. Just a small human touch.
Nice detail. And then there's Apollos.
Apollos, yes. Another fascinating character. An eloquent Jew from Alexandria, a major intellectual center back then. But initially, he only knew about John's baptism, which was sort of a preparatory ritual, not the full Christian understanding.
So his message was incomplete.
Kind of an unfinished symphony, as Priscilla and Aquila saw it. They were Paul's friends, also tent makers. They hear Apollos speak.
And they take him aside.
They invite him home. And the book says, for hours, they spoke of Jesus crucified, of the empty tomb, of the day of Pentecost, and the arrival of the Holy Spirit.
Wow, a deep dive right there.
Totally. And it leads to Apollos being fully baptized into Christ. It's a great example of mentorship within the early church.
But even Apollos, this gifted speaker, felt inadequate.
He did. He felt the weight of the message. And Tychicus offers this really profound response, remembering something Paul said, "The power is not from us. We are jars of clay, but the treasure is his."
Jars of clay. What does that image really signify? For them and maybe for us?
It's such a powerful metaphor for human weakness or fragility. It means God's strength and glory are shown through our flaws, not in spite of them. The treasure isn't our own talent or power. It's God's Spirit working through ordinary, breakable people.
Making his light shine brighter because of the cracks almost.
Exactly, which Apollos gets immediately. He says he wants to be a broken jar, if only for his light to shine through.
That's profound. And then Paul calls Tychicus for another journey, right? To Macedonia with him.
Yes, a quiet but weighty call, the book says. And Trophimus, another co-worker, explains why Paul needs him. He needs someone steady, someone who listens with his whole spirit before speaking.
That sounds exactly like Tychicus.
Perfectly. It confirms his specific value to Paul.
Which leads to that farewell with Damaris. It feels quite poignant.
It really is. She asks him to write about the small things.
Yeah, like if you're eating, if you've seen birds nesting, if your boots are holding out. It's so personal.
It is. And she gives him a blank sheet of vellum parchment, describing it as full of possibility, of unspoken hopes, of something fragile and real.
And his first letter back to her, from the sea voyage to Philippi. It's beautiful. He talks about the fierce sea, the tough conditions.
Dry bread, brackish water.
But then he sees 2 gulls flying against the wind at dusk. And it reminds him of the strange way grace works, how it presses into resistance and still arrives.
Such a powerful image.
And he signs it Tychicus of the Way. What does that signature tell us?
Well, the Way was one of the very first names followers of Jesus used for themselves, even before Christians became common. So signing it like that, it's him identifying completely with Christ's teachings and lifestyle. He's defining himself by his faith, not his job or where he came from.
Got it. And Damaris's reply is just as moving. Her words like, spring rain gentle, renewing.
She notes his absence isn't emptiness, but a longing that sharpens the soul.
And she thinks of him steady in the wind, while she sees a heron by the aqueduct. Her faith in unity remains strong too, because it must. We are all cracked vessels, but the light shines through the fractures.
It really shows the depth of their connection and shared faith, even when separated.
So Tychicus is now on the road, carrying these crucial letters and these personal hopes. But it's not easy going. Philippi sounds tense.
Very tense. The book mentions a tense silence. Believers are meeting secretly in Lydia's house. Paul notes the gospel grows in blood and in bread, in prison and in praise. It's dangerous work.
Which leads to this dramatic incident the book calls the Night of Shadows.
Right. Roman soldiers burst in, searching for Paul. And it's Tychicus, with what the book calls quiet courage, who leads the group to safety in a hidden cellar.
And he says something powerful there. We cannot live like this. Always hunted, always hiding, but...
Neither can we be silent. He finds strength, apparently thinking of Damaris's letter, and speaks about love, hope, faith.
The book sums it up so well. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision that something else is more important.
Exactly. It shows leadership isn't always loud charisma. Sometimes it's quiet resolve under pressure.
Then there's that incident in Troas with Tychicus, the young man who falls asleep during Paul's long sermon.
Falls right out of a third-story window.
Oof. And Paul miraculously revives him. What was Tychicus' takeaway from that?
His insight was, sometimes faith carries us even when our legs cannot.
Faith carries us even when our legs cannot. What does that mean, practically?
I think for Tychicus, it was seeing divine power overcome human limits right before his eyes. It speaks to those times when logic fails, when our own strength gives out, but somehow that deeper conviction, faith, keeps us moving.
Recognizing that God's strength works best in our weakness.
Precisely, pushing us beyond what we thought we could handle. And the book mentions this spurred in Tychicus a hunger for a return to the locational source where faith began, maybe meaning Jerusalem.
Interesting. Soon after, Paul has that emotional farewell with the Ephesian elders at Miletus. He knows he's heading to Jerusalem and likely imprison it.
Yeah, a sad departure. He knows he probably won't see them again. And he warns them, doesn't he?
He does. Warns about fierce wolves coming in, men speaking twisted things rising up from among them.
A chilling warning. And this is where Paul gives Tychicus a very specific instruction, clarifying his purpose.
What does he say?
He tells him, you are needed elsewhere, strengthen the church there, and greet those dear to you.
So sending him back
Yeah.
to Ephesus, back to Damaris.
Exactly. Confirming his return.
And that reunion in Ephesus.
Yeah.
The description is wonderful. He finds her in the scriptorium, hair braided, a feather behind her ear.
Mm-hmm. And he simply says, I told you I'd return, but then confesses, but nothing undid me like seeing you again.
And her response, giving him another blank parchment.
Yes, saying, we both carry scrolls, but I think there's one story still being written. And Tychicus replies, then let's begin.
The book says, love took root, not hurried, not declared, but known. What's the takeaway there?
It speaks to the realness, the depth of their bond. It wasn't built on grand pronouncements, but on shared purpose, quiet support, deep respect.
Yeah.
Forged in the middle of all this difficult ministry work.
A reminder that the strongest relationships often grow from that shared understanding and values.
Absolutely, becoming the solid foundation.
Which naturally leads to the proposal.
Finally. Yes, Tychicus asks Damaris to marry him. I love you so much. Will you marry me?
And her reply is great. I was wondering if you would ever ask. Of course I will. Yes, yes, and yes.
Apparently he'd already spoken to her father very properly.
Good man. And they get married right away.
Immediately, the book says. Timothy officiates, and Onesimus and Rachel are witnesses. A real moment of personal joy amidst the larger mission.
So, newly married, but the mission continues. Tychicus gets a new commission from Paul, who's now imprisoned in Rome.
That's right. Paul's under house arrest, but still directing things. He tells Tychicus explicitly, you will be my eyes and ears, my messenger. I entrust to you the letters I have written.
Words of encouragement, instruction, warning.
Exactly. Paul has immense trust in him to carry the burden of these words. Tychicus is now Paul's main link to these churches.
And this next trip involves Onesimus. He was one of the witnesses at the wedding, right? But he has a complicated backstory.
Very complicated. Onesimus was Philemon's runaway bondservant, essentially, an enslaved person in Philemon's household. And he'd apparently stolen from Philemon when he ran away.
Wow, okay, so Tychicus accompanying him back must have been incredibly sensitive.
Extremely. But Onesimus had met Paul in Rome, heard the gospel, and as the book says, slowly believed he'd converted.
And Paul sends him back, but not as property.
No. Tychicus reassures Onesimus, you will not return as a slave, you'll return as a brother. Paul's letter to Philemon, which Tychicus carries, is revolutionary. Paul calls Onesimus my very heart and asks Philemon to receive him back no longer as a slave, but as a beloved brother.
Asking Philemon to welcome back a runaway as an equal. That's huge.
Absolutely groundbreaking for the time.
And before they even leave Rome, there's another wedding for Onesimus.
Yes. When Onesimus marries Rachel, she was the daughter of an Ephesian merchant who'd also converted. There's this joyful murmur at their wedding in Rome.
Who officiates?
Peter, actually, one of the chief apostles, and Aquila and Priscilla are there too. Peter's words are quoted: "Christ turned slaves into sons and daughters and strangers into family."
Powerful stuff.
And Tychicus reflects on it. If Onesimus and Rachel can rise from their chains, visible and invisible, then so can we all. It connects back to that core theme of transformation.
So the four of them, Tychicus, Damaris, Onesimus, and Rachel, traveled to Colossae, to Philemon's house. You can just feel the tension.
Palpable. As they approach, Tychicus reads from a letter, maybe Paul's, maybe his own thoughts. Grace finds the faithful, not always first, but always fully.
And Onesimus adds, mercy can rewrite a name. Rachel says, God sees even those who serve in silence. Affirmations before a really tough moment.
Yeah. And the scene with Philemon, it's incredibly dramatic. When Onesimus kneels, offers Paul's letter.
What's Philemon's reaction?
Shock at first. Then reading Paul's letter, he apparently gives a soft laugh when he gets to the part where Paul says, "If he has wronged you or owes you anything, charge it to me. I, Paul, write this with my own hand. I will repay it."
Paul's putting his own reputation and resources on the line.
Totally. And then Paul adds that little kicker, "And I won't mention that you owe me your very soul."
Huh? A gentle reminder of Philemon's own conversion through Paul.
Exactly. And the reconciliation is complete when Philemon kneels down too, accepting Onesimus not as a slave, but as a brother.
Just an incredible picture of forgiveness in action.
Yeah.
Radical.
Truly radical. After that, Tychicus reads Paul's letter to the whole Colossian church.
The letter to the Colossians. What are the key themes there?
It emphasizes Christ's supremacy, the visible image of the invisible God. He holds all creation together, and then this powerful charge to the believers: clothe yourselves with tender-hearted mercy, kindness, gentleness, and patience. Make allowance for each other's faults, and forgive anyone who offends you.
You can imagine how that landed, especially for Onesimus, right after his own experience.
Absolutely. Brings it full circle. And Tychicus summarizes it so well. Letters may carry truth, but it is people who carry grace.
People carry grace. That feels like such a core takeaway from his whole life. What does that mean to you? How do people carry grace?
Well, I think it means the message isn't just words on a page. It becomes real, tangible, believable when we see it lived out.
Right.
Tychicus didn't just deliver scrolls. He lived the message. His actions, his steadfastness, his courage, his role in reconciliation, like with Onesimus and Philemon, made the grace Paul wrote about visible. People saw it in him.
So after Colossae, more challenges. They head to Laodicea next, right? The lukewarm city.
That's the one. Famous or infamous, really. Laodicea was wealthy, self-sufficient, proud.
And known for its water supply being literally lukewarm.
Exactly. Piped in from hot springs far away, arrived tepid and unpleasant. A perfect, if unfortunate, metaphor for their spiritual state, according to the message Tychicus brings from Paul.
Which was pretty blunt, wasn't it?
Very blunt. You say, I am rich, I have prospered, and I need nothing, not realizing that you are wretched, pitiable, poor, blind, and naked.
Ouch. Cuts right through their complacency. Doesn't sound like a message that would be popular with the wealthy elite there.
Not at all. The book describes them stirring the ashes and immediately facing opposition. They confront a wealthy merchant named Artemis.
And he accuses Lydia, presumably the same Lydia from Philippi, of bringing division.
Seems likely. And he warns Tychicus and the group to leave before the Sabbath. But Lydia stands firm. Her response is amazing. I will not silence the truth because it offends the comfortable. I serve a higher king.
Wow. Standing up to power like that.
Which leads to this fantastic scene the book calls the fire in the kiln moment. They can't meet in the comfortable houses, so where do they go?
Where?
The potter's quarter. The poorer district meeting with the overlooked, the marginalized.
Yeah.
And who shows up unexpectedly? A Roman official. Marcus Gaius Calventius, described as a prefect's advisor.
A Roman official. At a Christian meeting in the poor quarter.
Yes. And apparently he knew Paul from Caesarea. He'd heard Paul speak and had been almost persuaded back then.
Almost persuaded.
Until now. Until now. He tells Tychicus, now, I am still listening. But your words tonight, they sounded like his. They cut deeper than Caesar's sword. And he decides to stay, not as a watcher, but as a brother.
Incredible. What's the significance of this high-ranking Roman converting there in the Potter's Quarter?
It's huge. It shows that real heart change often happens not in places of power or comfort, but where truth is spoken plainly among people who are open to it.
Regardless of social status.
Exactly. It shows the gospel reaching even into the structures of the empire, but finding fertile ground in humility, not pride. Marcus's choice is a powerful testament to authenticity.
And Tychicus baptizes him.
Yes. The book says Marcus wept not the tears of regret, but of rebirth. Tychicus writes about it to Paul. Greetings from Marcus, once a servant of Caesar, now a brother. He who was almost persuaded has been sealed. What a victory.
Amazing story. But trouble is brewing back in Ephesus, isn't it?
Yes, just as things seem hopeful, an urgent message arrives from Timothy. The church in Ephesus is divided.
Those fierce wolves Paul warned about.
Seems so. False teachers, twisting the truth, Timothy's authority being questioned. It sounds like a serious crisis.
And Tychicus' reaction.
Immediate resolve. We leave before midday. Marcus, the new convert, gets it too, saying, if Ephesus falls, the whole region shakes.
And Tychicus' response is pure determination. Then they will watch us walk into it open-eyed and unafraid.
Just walks right back into the fire. His commitment is unwavering.
So they arrive in Ephesus to confront this division. Who is leading the opposition?
A figure named Dione, called the Veiled Prophetess. The book paints a picture of her garden hall, her silvery linen veil, her smooth, appealing words about ascent, healing, the divine within. Sounds quite mystical, maybe Gnostic influenced.
Sort of a self-help spirituality.
Perhaps. Very different from Paul's message. And Damaris, with her sharp insight, cuts right through it. She asks Dione a simple question.
What does she ask?
Where is the cross?
Powerful question. Why was that so piercing? What did it expose?
Because Dione's message was likely all about personal empowerment, maybe bypassing the difficult parts of faith. The cross represents sacrifice, redemption from sin, humility, reliance on Christ's work, not just our own inner divinity. Damaris's question exposed the core missing element in Dione's teaching.
It lacked the foundation of Christian faith.
Exactly. The uncomfortable but essential truth. Tychicus then backs it up, quoting Paul's earlier warning about men speaking twisted things arising from within the church.
What's the result of this confrontation?
It's significant. Nearly half of Dione's followers apparently leave her and rejoin Timothy and Tychicus. The book notes, light wounds shadow just by shining. Just speaking the truth had a powerful effect.
So Ephesus starts to heal.
It seems so. Souls long divided begin to rejoin. Marcus, the Roman convert, helps rebuild. Damaris teaches the women. Lydia cares for the poor. They share a covenant meal.
And there's that touching moment with the old blind woman.
Yes, someone Paul himself had baptized years earlier. She declares, Christ is enough. He always has been. It brings it all back to the center. The Ephesian church, the book concludes, was not perfect, but whole, restored.
What a journey. So as we look toward the end of Tychicus' life, how does the book portray him?
We see him years later, an older man in the Ephesus house church. His scrolls are worn soft from use, and he reflects on his life's work.
What are his reflections?
Very humble. I was never the author, never the apostle, just a courier, a servant of servants.
Wow.
But he acknowledges he served faithfully. He walked beside the great, like Paul, but also knelt beside the broken, like Onesimus or the people in the Potter's Quarter.
It really drives home that idea of the power of hidden service, doesn't it? His work had not been glorious. It had been good.
Exactly. It's a potent reminder for us, I think. In a world often obsessed with the loudest voice or the most visible role, the most lasting impact often comes from that consistent, faithful, often unseen work, knitting things together.
The ligaments again.
The ligaments, precisely. And the book connects this to the bigger picture. Empires rose and raged, but the church endured, not with armies or banners, but with shepherds, scribes, and messengers like Tychicus. It was built person by person, act by act of quiet faithfulness.
So bringing this deep dive to a close, what's the final thought for you, our listener?
Yeah.
In a world that celebrates the visible, the loud, what quiet acts of faithfulness might you be called to?
Yeah, how might being a ligament, connecting others, or maybe a broken jar, letting light shine through your imperfections be your most powerful contribution? And thinking about Tychicus carrying those scrolls, what sacred scrolls, messages of truth, love, hope, are you uniquely positioned to carry forward in your own life, in your own way?
Some powerful questions to reflect on. We hope this deep dive into Tychicus' life has given you a new appreciation for the profound impact of faithful, humble service.